You probably know her for her authenticity, her love for good food. She's not afraid to air out her opinions, whether it's on air or on the streets, where she has gotten some trouble from. Faiza Fabz, on social media, very quite eloquent, and her eloquence has also landed her in trouble sometimes. But having grown up in a very big family, Ugandan Arab, and having have to go through different struggles of joining media, including self-doubt, Faiza Fabz has also made a name in the media industry. She's until recently been behind one of the top Kampala's biggest breakfast shows on KFM, The Mighty Breakfast. And she now joins us on Mind Your Head. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Is this, you can hear me it's not too far, right?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
It's not radio mic.
Precisely. Which is why I said sure. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you, Sheila?
I was waiting for that. I'm okay, Canary.
Since you hosted Alan the previous week, you must have gotten used to how are you really? Really, how are you?
No, now I didn't have anyone to say how are you.
Yeah, I would say that.
You were not there.
Even today morning when I was coming here to host Faiza, I woke you up. So how are you?
Canary, I'm okay. I'm surviving.
So Faiza, I don't know where to begin.
Anyway, it's fine.
But Sheila, I wanted to let you know, she was my Swahili teacher during lockdown. When we were all idle, I found a teacher to teach me Swahili.
Why Swahili?
I don't know. I felt like I wanted to learn it at the same time.
So now you can join the army, right?
At my old age, my mid-30s.
Yeah.
Faiza, you've just quit your job at KFM. Why did you quit?
I think one, not necessarily quit per se, but I'm heading in a different direction. This doesn't mean that I don't want to do radio, because I still want to do radio, but I think heading in a different direction, prioritizing other things at this moment. So, yeah.
Just walk us through the process of quitting.
Canary, first wait, Faiza, let me even go to Uganda or Tubi. What is that? What is prioritizing other? Imagine me who has been following you and listening, and now Faiza is no more. I know we have plans, we move on, but
yeah.
What is prioritizing other? But you still have radio, but you're prioritizing. So are you now going to focus more on the cooking, on content creation?
Or you getting married?
So many people, meanwhile, everyone has asked me that. Aside, and others have asked me to hint about where I will be going to next.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've seen that, but that is yet to be seen. That will happen in its own time. But one, I think personally for me, one of the things that I prioritize in my career is growth, and I don't want to be in a place where I feel like growth is not happening. Okay, so at some point or the other, it will get to a point where I decide that, okay, now I need to get to the next level, I need to get to the next place, and that is more or less also what happened here. But I know that a lot of people thought that I was also going to fully place 100% of my effort into what else I do outside of radio, which is my chef career, which is also growing, and it's something that I've fully immersed in. But I also don't know how to not fully immerse myself in something, even if it's like a side thing, yeah? Because I think when you're doing mainstream media, you're like in TV or radio, I'm still on TV, but a lot of people expect that these other things become some side hustles of sort. But I fully immerse myself in each and everything that I take on. So even if I was in this platform or on that other platform, I think that I'm still going to fully immerse myself in wherever I go. So you never know, guys. You never know. I mean, just before we started this, I was asking Canary, so how do you do this podcast? So tell me. So you never know.
Okay. Space.
I do. I think because podcasting is the future of also media, and it is a space where even life-changing conversations happen. It's also content that I personally consume, and I'd love to also be behind the mic doing something that I love. Yeah.
So just walk us through the process of quitting. Many of us at different levels or stages of life have considered quitting things.
Yeah.
Quitting relationships, quitting jobs, quitting friends, just quitting. Until there's a trigger, we never get to quit. Just hold on to that rope so tight until the blood starts coming. That's when we decide to quit. It feels like, I've made a decision, I'm going to prioritize on this. Sheila was asking, what did you mean prioritize other things? Everyone,
of course, for
growing
me,
up, let me just finish this, sorry. Everyone growing up who wanted to be on radio or TV, and now that you already have it, you've barely even done 5 years of radio. And then you see, like, you're quitting. Everyone would cherish that
So much
opportunity.
ease.
Yes, with so much ease. What is your thought process of quitting?
So one, I'm not quitting radio. I think, let me just put that out there just for clarity. I'm not quitting radio. This doesn't mean that I've left radio for good and completely moved elsewhere. So you might definitely see me back on the airwaves. But I think,
Hopefully soon.
yes, but I think the thing that, to answer what you're asking me, is that when do people feel like it's right to decide, like, you know what,
Yeah.
this is the
Not
time,
hanging
guys.
on, yeah.
This is it. Now, I'll start that by just speaking about my situation, which is that for people like myself and you guys, we don't just wake up and leave media houses most times. It's quite rare. By the time you do it, you've sort of figured out where you're going to next. You've lined out, like, this is where I want to go. So there's, number one, that. But also, too, for a lot of people, including myself, I think as well, I like to put, like, a time limit on how long I'd like to stay in a certain place. Because I do think, and I could be wrong, but I do think that sometimes after a certain year has hit, like a certain amount of time, there's no more growth that can be achieved also in that specific place. Unless the place in itself also is constantly growing and providing way more opportunities for growth. So you get to a certain point and you're like, there's not much that I can achieve
Offer.
in here, or there's not much that this place can offer me at this point. And I think that for me was a thought process that I carried when I left my first radio job, because I was like, I love this place, I love the people, I love the audience, but I don't think for my growth, that this place can offer me more than what I've been able to do. And I remember sitting and asking my friends, like, guys, think about it. Like, should I go? You know? And some of us, of course, when we're moving to another job, we're thinking about money, right? You're like, yeah, these people are paying me more. It's time to bye-bye. But for radio, it's different because it's a career. So you're thinking about, if I go there, will it actually advance my career, or am I just going to kill what I've already built? So for me, it's about, one, is this going to grow my career? Will my next, if I decide to leave this place, do I actually grow as a person? Or am I getting to a place where I could potentially have killed my career or have potentially stunted its growth? So there's that. And I think that's more or less what was at the back of my mind. There's just more growth. There's just a lot more that I can attain elsewhere.
So it's not radio bye-bye, but for now, you want to focus on something else, and you could be back anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where does this leave the cooking? Because personally, it's what I love you for, because I like cooking. So
Yeah.
yes, I'll be there watching those videos and trying those different recipes. Because it also, is it a passion for you?
Yes.
Or it's just something you did growing up and decided to?
I think one, for me, my background in cooking is a family thing. It started off as a family thing because I come from a family of cooks and chefs. So cooking is our way of life as well. Now, at what point do I decide that this now should be also a main career? Because for a long time I did cooking, but from a content creator perspective, like I would create food content, and I've done that and fully immersed myself in it. But I think now I also want to get into the actual chefing culinary career. Yeah. So quite recently,
Like service provider for
so
events and
guys,
you're coming.
please. Akalago guys is out. But I think I would also really want to immerse myself in it. Quite recently, I was telling the guys, because my instructors were also asking me, I'm in a culinary school. So they were asking me, so what are you going to do next now that you've left where you work? I said, I want to immerse myself in this as well, 100%. I want to give this 100% of my effort. And she was so excited. She said, the world is not ready. If you are going to give this 100%, the world isn't ready. And I think that's the same enthusiasm that I also carry into this career. I want to give myself 100%. And I want to get into this and also do great things.
Right. Well, when you open the company, just let me know so I can buy in shares. Not that I love cooking, but I love to see dreams grow. Let's talk about activism.
Okay.
You were arrested, thrown in jail
Yeah.
for protesting against corruption. Many people do not have the context of how you were arrested,
Yeah.
how you were treated inside the jail, the cells, and when you were taken to prison. They do not know what was going through your mind with the conversations that were going around online, but most importantly, when you were brought to court.
Yeah.
Just take us through what was on your mind when everything was happening. First of all, how did you even decide to go on the streets to protest? Or was it an accidental arrest?
It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was accidental because I don't know what you mean by accidental. I think that the thing that led me to decide that, okay, I think this is the time was because I realized for a lot of people in Uganda, especially people who are likely to live the rest of their lives here, we tend to treat national matters from a point of like a bystander point. Like we're just watching, we're not very proactive.
And commenting.
Yes, you're just watching and you're letting things unfold. And yet I think that we've come to a point whereby the country in general has come to a point whereby it is very detrimental to just not involve yourself. You may not involve yourself by saying that, okay, I'm actually going to get directly into working, maybe in government. You'll have to find where you actually fit into the story, okay? Now that may be from an activism point where you advocate for governance, where you advocate for zero corruption. It might be that, but you still have to find a way where you actually are within the national development conversation that this is how I'm advancing the betterment of this country. There must be something because I promise you, I have never thought about myself as living in another country. You know how Ugandans are always saying like, well, if we need a chance, leave this country. I've actually never endorsed that personally, and I've never thought of myself living in another country. Yes, I'd love to travel and visit other countries for holidays.
But not to stay.
But not to live in another country. I love Uganda, and I love all that this country has to offer. And I think that I would love to make sure that I help towards making this country better, if not for myself, certainly for the people that will come after me, okay? One day I hope to have like maybe kids, and I don't want them to inherit a country that is, starting them off in negatives, okay? So I want to make sure that at least at the end of it all, I've done everything that I can to give them a good country. But, so the thing that sparked my decision, the moment that actually I think changed my decision was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
It's fine, just be real.
But I've already said it on KFM, so sure, I can say it here as well. So there was a moment in time when the former speaker said something quite interesting and something that is very worrying, I think. I should publicly say that, and I think in a way endorsed corruption. He said, it's not bad for as long as you're eating it with people here, like,
sharing with the people.
It's not bad. I mean, if I steal money that is meant for this thing, and then I put it back into, say, for example, in my home, I go back maybe where I come from, and I say, this district, I think I'm
giving back to the community.
Hey, it's not as bad, right? But in doing so, you are neglecting what are the actual detrimental effects of stealing, for example, public funds, or misusing public funds, or taking away from what that money was meant to do.
For you, why was that personal?
Because the moment a public official, especially of that rank, says something like that, and nothing happens, or no one says that, no one, by the way, with more influence than her, says that, no, we cannot move forward as a country, especially with someone like that at the helm. There's something wrong.
So then you decide this is the day.
No.
Everyone is going on the streets, so am I.
I said no. We have to do something
about this. Were
about
your parents
this.
aware about this?
No, they weren't. I actually saw my mom in the morning before leaving.
Really? And you didn't tell her anything?
And I didn't. I mean, my mom sees me almost every day. So as usual, I stopped by her place, checked on her, and then went about my business. For her, she's like, this is just another day. So she finds out, of course, much, much later on. But this is to just say that there are things that will happen in this country that should worry us. And I think that there are things that have become so normalized that you will now see them and you're like, that is Uganda. That's our country.
But it's wrong.
But it's so wrong because you feel the effect of what you're saying much, much later on. And you don't want it to happen when you either are able to do very little about it or you've completely lost spirit in what can I do about this? You don't want to get to that point. Yeah. And that's why I said that there are things that happen in this country and you'll see people crying about how unfair certain systems are, but you won't feel them until you're actually at the other end when you're experiencing them. So I find that there's like a loop happening. Yeah. Eventually you're going to feel what the other people are feeling. So if the medical interns are saying that, if the government says that medical interns were not going to give you money because you've surpassed the number that government can actually handle, and then you say, bana,
okay.
Sorry about that, but that's it. But eventually you're going to go to Mulago and you find that the medical intern who's supposed to cater to you and is not on duty because he's also disgruntled. He's also probably gone home. Or maybe he's also stuck in protesting against what government has planned.
Yeah, but Faiza, take us through your mind. You keep dodging that. You're now loaded onto a police truck. You're thrown into a police cell.
You know what?
Waiting. You're like, oh shit, it's finally happened.
You guys.
Like, what's going through your mind? You're like, now my mother, who will call her?
Do you know that I actually didn't realize the extent of what was happening until much, much later on?
I think when you were already in?
Yes. When I was arrested, it did not hit me, the extent of what was happening, until much, much later on. By the way, you don't realize how bad this could go until later. I say this because, when you have like adrenaline is up here, it sort of numbs everything. You don't realize how dangerous a certain situation is because, let's be honest, protesting against government does come with some dire consequences. It has happened. And I think me and other people are just so lucky because there are people who are still in prison till date. You guys had been abandoned onto the truck. I'm like, tugende.
But still,
tugende. The thing, I'm telling you, adrenaline is such a funny thing because it doesn't make you realize how dangerous the situation is. Tugende, we go. We enter, they put us inside the police cell, which is a holding cell as they process your papers. So
what does this room look like? Are there other people?
There were two ladies. Jail cells in this country are so bad, you guys. It's a very dark room. There are mattresses on the floor that are terrible, in terrible condition. The place smells. There's a lady who had been in there, I think had been in there for a long time. And I remember it was such a terrible place. And not to mention that once they close the door, that's when you realize that you're inside a prison cell that you can't actually open and get out. You don't realize it. Like, you're like, okay. So then, of course, at that point, they keep picking you because they want to record your statement. Probably someone has come to see you. Maybe your lawyer has come to see you. So you're like, okay, we go. They take us back like that. Then that thing where they take off your shoes. Luckily for women, the treatment isn't as bad for men. So they will take...
But it's still bad.
It is bad, but for men, it's actually worse. It's way, way, way worse. First of all, male prisons are very congested. Not just the prison, but even the jail cells itself, they're very congested. That's why when you walk, at CPS, have you ever noticed that you see so many men at like a small window just looking? It is terrible. So we get to that point, and now we're sitting. They are getting our statements. There's also, considering that this was such a very hot topic at that time, there were so many people in there as well. There were civil society organizations, there were lawyers in there. There were so many people who were just trying to help the situation, right?
Like, yeah.
My lawyer is also there. My lawyer has disgruntled that, why would you speak to these people before I've arrived? There's also that. But then we immediately rushed from that point. After they take away some of your belongings, like a phone, whatever they've arrested you with, they take it away. Then they take us straight to court.
Wow.
From court, I think
and still at that point,
it still has not, guys, it hasn't settled in. My mind is just like calm.
You're like, this country,
let's go. From court, we're now remanded. Let me tell you the speed at which they took us. The speed at which government officials go through that road when they are going about their business. That siren is on. They are moving at a crazy speed. And now may I stay close to the prison place. So I'm seeing us even go past my house. Continuing. And then we go, and then we reach. So we first stop at the men's prison, then we go to the female prison. So when we get there, it's around, I think it was around 5 or 4. Now, so you get there, they the first moment that I think when I started realizing that this would actually go terrible. So as I was getting my uniform, so they give you your yellow uniforms, and they do that first check where you strip naked. They have to check that you don't have anything, you're not carrying anything inside the prison that shouldn't otherwise be carried inside the prison. Now the lady says, I've watched you on TV. Because she had watched TV, she's like, same way. I was like, yeah. So the other is like, yes, these are the ones, by the way. Then she says something that is very worrisome. Olivia, what way and then the other one says, I take Atino for like 2 years.
For context, this is Olivia Lutaya.
Yes.
From the National Unity Platform.
Yes, from
who has been in jail.
Yes.
At that point, she had been in jail for 2 years.
Yes, this is before she had...
she had been pardoned and then rearrested during the campaigns.
Yes. So it says, I take Atino
And you're like, okay.
I'm like, okay. Because it sounds small. Because the way they said it sounded like it was such a minor issue, but she's here.
Yes.
She has been here for such a long time. So anyways, I dress up, and then so by 5 p.m., all the prisoners are already inside. They're back inside their wards. So we go and they take you to this first ward where they bring people who have just come to the prison. And so I'm seated there. What's interesting is I now meet people who have listened to me already, and they're so excited to meet me. And not to mention that inside prison, there are also TV stations, so they're able to watch news. So they're like, hey man, we've seen you. A few of them are kind of excited to see you.
You are catching up.
I'm catching up. Now, the moment where it actually sinks in that I'm inside prison, not even jail, but inside Zira, and I'm actually wearing yellow, is when it's time to go to sleep. You guys, I remember... Because it's so still, you go to bed as early as 8 p.m. The lights go off, I think, at 7 something. By 8 p.m., everyone is quiet. Now you are alone. You're in a congested prison, alone. That's when it sits that you are. Because by that point, the adrenaline has worn off. Reality is setting in that you're actually inside prison. And that getting out of here is not as easy as it looks. Especially when it's something that is political. It is not as easy as it looks. It might be a minor issue in terms of like the law, but this is serious. Never had I felt time move so slowly. like that. From that moment onwards, everything felt extremely slow. Now, we have just started settling in, then one of the officers comes and mentions my name. We're looking for so-and-so. I said, God, they're going to beat me today. I was scared. I was like, this is now torture.
And it's nighttime, right?
This is nighttime. It's like 8 p.m. Like, Faiza, we're looking for Salima. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Now, outside of the prison grounds are a bit dark. It's dark. I'm like, now they're going to slap me. When they take it. Kumbe, they had arrested other people who had protested, I think, from downtown. So they wanted to process all of us, do our prison, because they do sort of like a, how can I call it, like admission into prison. They have to have a file for you. You see how in the movies you hold it, you do all of that.
I thought they do that when you get in.
So they didn't do it for me as soon as I'd gotten in. So I think they waited for the entire group to arrive so they can do it at once. So at that point when they call me and they say, come out.
You're like, I'm done.
I'm like, oh,
at night, moreover.
Yes. So it's dark because you're moving around, you're following the officer, but it's dark. You're like, you're going to beat me and I will learn. That government does not be played with. But luckily enough, they say, Abalala, you hear them saying, Abalala Baze, so let's do the prison admission at once. So they take us to the admission block, or the administration block to be specific, where they now do that bit where they write your file, they put in details, they strip search you to make sure that, well, as many of you know now, that if you are tortured inside prison, whatever case they are holding against you is nullified, so to say. So they have to check and make sure that if you have any scars on your body, those are the scars you came with. You're not going to say that, no, I was actually beaten here. So this I picked from here. So they have to check you. They have to take pictures if necessary and make sure that everything is documented. They have to make sure that all your belongings, if you came with car keys, because I think I had I didn't have my car keys. I had some keys and some money. If you have money, everything is documented that when you are arrested and you go to the prison, these are the things these are your belongings. So that when you leave, they can give those things back to you. Every tiny item. So in that I meet all these other people who had been arrested as well from the protests, and now we're going back. I think
they're equally stripped.
Yeah, everyone. You guys, you have to, if you are, and so, as someone who has never been to a boarding school, so I don't even know how to be naked in front of other people. So it was such a weird experience. Yeah. But that experience, of course, continued for the next few days while we were there, because every time someone would come to see me, you'd have to go through it again.
Really?
Yes.
Because they don't know what they've given you.
You could be carrying something outside of prison. When you're coming back in, you could be carrying contraband inside prison. So it happens twice. So if you Canary say that I'm going to visit, say for example, Okelo, and
really?
They say,
what an example.
Okay.
Because there's a TikTok video of a guy who got a board at go and visit Okelo.
So Okelo is indeed expecting you guys.
Yeah, but I thought the visitor is checked thoroughly.
Yes, you're also checked, by the way, and I think.
But at least the visitor is not stripped, but they are checked.
Luckily enough, they're not stripped, but you're checked thoroughly, and if you've ever been to, you know that your phone, you're not even allowed to carry any gadgets inside the prison. But now who's the prisoner, who is now inside the prison, you're checked a little bit way more, and you're checked twice. So when you are going, they will first check you, strip search you, by the way. Then when you are coming back in after seeing your person, they check you again. Then you enter. It's a very strict system. A very, very strict system.
Did you find it dehumanizing?
I think, yes. I think prison is very dehumanizing. From the congested space, it's extremely congested. It's so congested.
So how was your first night?
So the first night was really hard. I think the first 2 nights were super hard because those were the nights when at the time also the media there were so many updates, and one of them was the president's update around the people who had been arrested, saying that no, these people, they are backed by foreigners, so we shall get down to the bottom of this. And I was like, when the president when the president takes an interest in a matter directly, it worries you, okay, because this could go. So there were so many updates, and the first 2 nights were the hardest, you guys, because I remember the first 2 nights I was barely eating, and yet we had all these civil society organizations trying to buy us, like buying food and bringing it, like even well-wishers, friends, family members, bringing us like some supplies that we could use inside. But it was so hard. Not to mention trying to adapt to your surroundings. You're sharing with like 3, 4, 5 other people.
How are the bathrooms?
The bathrooms, no. So in the women's prison, I can't speak for the men's prison, but the women's prisons are very clean. Very, very clean. But of course, the facility in itself isn't.
Old.
It's old. It's not well managed. I mean, it's run down to some point.
But it's not dirty.
Yeah. They're quite strict in there. They have a strict cleaning rota. So it's a well managed.
At this point, you are put on a prison's truck and you're handcuffed.
No.
You are not handcuffed with someone else.
Women
the male were.
Men are handcuffed. Women are rarely handcuffed.
You're going to court one more time, and this is when they are going to ask, your lawyers are going to ask for bail on your behalf. What is going through your mind?
That is either today or
never.
Not never, but it's going to take a long time. If we don't get bail today, and I think my lawyer had done an amazing job of trying to, one, calm us, but also explain how this could potentially go. It could either go like this, or
I was honest with you.
Yeah, it's like I want you guys to be prepared for the reality of what this could look like. So we could either one get bail today, or it could take longer than we actually think it's going to take. Because yes, this is not a major thing. This is a minor issue when it comes to the law, but the nature of in which, or the environment in which this has happened could make this go left.
And at that point, did you regret it?
No,
Your
I've
decision?
never actually regretted my decision. Maybe if I'd stayed in prison longer, I would have regretted it. You never know. But there's no moment, even till date, where I've ever regretted what I'd done. Because I think going by the recent incidents, at least recent news, clearly what we were talking about then, I think now the entire nation had to come and face what we had also been talking about for a long time. So there's no point in time where I've ever regretted it.
Did you felt like after getting out of prison and you had been given bail, did you felt like you were privileged?
Yes. Privileged because not everyone has access to a lawyer, guys. Not everyone does. Not everyone has that amount of well-wishers who are willing to come to your rescue. Not every case inside prison, because in my time there, I met so many people who are unfairly arrested, imprisoned. Some people have been in there for years, and they have to deal with an unjust system, a system that is flawed, and all they have to rely on is God, and that someday things happen.
Will change.
Yeah. Whereas on our end, there was also external pressure. There were so many people pushing for things to be done the right way. So in many ways, we were very privileged, because the reality of it is that if all of that wasn't happening for us, we might have even been there even longer. I mean, Olivia Luther is back in prison. She's been there now for some time. Even with all the things that are happening in the background in trying to secure her release and that of many others, you can see how things eventually turn out. So to be honest, to be able to come out of certain especially situations that are political, you are privileged in one way or another.
And where is your mind? Where is your mental health the time you get back home? Because you've gone through a phase there. You've experienced some things in prison. Maybe not as bad, but then you have to come back to society, to home, to family. That you just said bye to in the morning, by the way, like it was a normal
What's
day.
your mother saying? What are you saying?
My mother till date doesn't want to hear me talking about politics or government. And I went and said, stop it. Says, Mwana wank. I think we don't want to go back to those things. Because my mother came to Luzira to see me. And my mother is a very strong lady, but you could tell she was so worried. She was so worried. So when I got back home, there was this eerie feeling of like, yes, I'm back home, but things don't feel like they were before. You can tell the way people treat you in that moment, the way they see you is so different. And you have to, personally, I just want to get back into the routine as quick as possible. I want to get back to work as soon as possible. And I remember I only took like one day off and then went back to work that very week. And I remember Brian was like surprised, like, I thought you were going to be back on Monday. I said, no, if I don't get back to work, if I don't get back to the routine, I feel like this will weigh harder than it is right now. So I want to get back to doing things as the way I've always done them, because there were so many people who wanted to talk to me. But at the same time, remember, there was so much swirling conversation around these people are foreign backed. And the president kept saying that I will prove that these people, everyone who was protesting, there's some sort of foreigners involved in this.
So that worried you?
That worried me, one, because we're out on bail. That bail could be cancelled.
Go back.
That bail could be cancelled and we could go back. So if the president tomorrow, if someone shows up and says, no, I have evidence, here it is.
That's it.
It could be cancelled and we could go back. So there was also that of always being on edge of like, what if we have to go back? So sometimes for me, the easiest way sometimes to cope with things is just to get back into the routine of how I've always done the work that I do or how I go about my day to day. And I remember that in as much as I enjoy every once in a while meeting people who know me, in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks didn't feel very exciting, because people would stop you even in places like this, and they would want to ask you questions. They want to find out, are you okay? And I know it's coming from a point of concern, but it always felt so strange, because to some point I got to a point where I also didn't want to keep talking about it. Sometimes the best way to get over certain things is just not to continuously keep talking about it.
And that's why I want to come in. What helped you heal from all this trauma that you had gone through a couple of days and the stress? I'm sure for you, it's get back on the routine, keep busy, at the same time, stop talking about it. Like, try to fit in the community
Yeah.
one more time. But what else helped you cope with life?
I think
Like what put your mental health together?
I think also having conversations about what had happened, but having them with friends, people who I felt like there was no judgment of sorts. Yeah. I think it's very important by there that if each one of us, you get one person in your life, you can tell things and there's no judgment. If you tell them like, man, I was actually scared and I think maybe I was stupid to do this, there will be no judgment because social media can be very cruel, guys. Because in this whole debacle, there are people online who are saying, bueno, there are all these people who are spreading propaganda every time. Not to mention that one of the mainstream media houses put out a whole front page calling this again foreign backed and what. And I was like, this. Remember, it's also playing with your reputation as a person because now they're building a perception around you, and a narrative that you don't want people to take on. But this is something that is out there meanwhile, so you can't do anything about it. So sometimes it helped when I would speak about something, or I would vent to my close friends and be like, guys, so you guys, like this is going a terrible route, okay? But it also helped that there were people who were holding my hand, I think, throughout all of this. Those of Agatha would speak to you and explain to you, like, in all of this, you know your truth. And by the way, this is a conversation that really, really helped me. Because let me tell you guys, when that conversation was going around that we were foreign backed and it had saturated everywhere, and to the point that some people had started really, really believing it, I remember worrying about how this could go and how it would affect my reputation as well, my brand as well. And I remember she said to me that, you know who you are, you know what you did, you know what you were standing for, and it doesn't matter who says what. You know who you are. That's it. So I think I carried that as well. And I remember also Kasuku telling me that the people will always say, you just have to wait. You have to wait it out. Like there are things where you just have to let also time do its work. Because do you remember the time when people would say that they are also planning to leave the country?
Yeah.
Yeah, these people are going to leave the country anytime now. And Kuku told me like, okay, katumako mnama ugenda ita bagamente okay. Yagamba bagambanti agenda vamu Uganda. She's still here. So So there are things where you also I would let time do its thing. Yeah. But it also helped that I really had a strong supportive system around me.
Let's talk about career and identity. Let's rest the activism.
Yeah.
You're from not just an extended family.
Yeah.
Grew up with many siblings. You're the sixth of the seven.
Yeah.
But you're also from a family that has a Muslim background. Your name is Salima. But your trade name goes by Fabz Faiza Fabz. Have you encountered where you have to doubt on what career path to take because of your family background? For example, a Salma promoting a Tusker cider.
No, never. So I've always known things that and I think I'm the only one in my family who has taken the career path that I have taken.
You're the different one.
I'm the very different one. Maybe some people might even say I'm a black sheep. But I think I'm the only one who is in mainstream media. I'm the only one who did journalism. Everyone is in a completely different path. So for me, from way back, I knew what I wanted. None of the things I've done are things where I've stumbled into. These are things that I carefully planned for. I carefully made my way to them and consistently worked towards them. And those are the things that, because from day one, I knew what I wanted, I knew who I wanted to be, and I knew how I'd want to get there. So there's never been any doubt. Never have I ever looked at my family and said, okay, because my family, of course, as every other family is, they have dictated a certain career path for you, or they would want certain things for you. They would want you to do certain things that maybe align with what they want or what they think is best as well. But I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to be in journalism. I knew I wanted to be in media, and I've worked towards it. So there's never been any confusion since day one. And maybe also because I'm able to strip myself away from my family as an identity and also build who I want to be.
Yeah, and you say it with so much ease, because growing up we say we want to do things, and unfortunately, for some people, things don't work out.
Yeah.
And the media space, the media industry is a very challenging one and very dynamic one. How have you, as Faiza, managed? Because yes, you wanted things a certain way. I am sure that it wasn't as smooth.
Yes.
But you're here. You have people that look up to you. You have people that watch your content and wait for your content, me being among the people. So how has that journey been for you? Because it's one thing to say, I want to do this. And yeah, you'll get there. When we see you're there. But what has that journey been like?
So I was very... okay, so I put in consistent effort towards what I wanted to do. Okay, I'm a bit of a go-getter in the way that I work. So when I see something that I want, I try to see how to get to it. For example, I knew that I wanted to get into the radio space. Granted, I had some doubts when I was just starting out or when I was thinking about getting into radio, but I was so passionate about it. I loved listening to radio. I loved, and I knew I wanted to be behind. I wanted to be inside there, working and speaking to people, creating stories every day, listening and creating platforms. So I knew that, but like any other person, I had doubts on whether I can actually do this, and if I did it, would I be good at it? Because at the time when I was getting into radio, there was an image of what radio presenters look and feel like, and I always wondered, like, do I fit this image? You know, do I sound like them? Like when because you know how you listen to a radio presenter and they sound so good, like they sound so smooth. You're like, ha, but I've always believed in like just trying. May not work out, but at least give it a try and see. So I remember one time MCI had put up like a nice radio setup at our university, and we're all giving it a try. And I said, let me give it a try, see how it works out. So I went there and I gave it a try, and the people in the audience loved it. They said, oh my goodness, you're made for radio. And I think that was the moment that cemented that,
this is it.
This is the thing I'm going to go at. And from there onwards, I looked into my network of people who knew somebody who was in radio. And I knew a guy called Mark. Mark worked at a radio station called Record Radio. And I asked, I asked him, can you speak to the PD? I would love to volunteer. I knew that they wouldn't hire me. I mean, if I just said, like, I would love to work on radio, they were not going to hire me. So I said, I would love to just get an opportunity here, just to volunteer and I learn about radio. Spoke to the PD. The PD was like, okay, yeah, she just wants to volunteer. I mean, absolutely. So I get in, and that's my first foot into radio, because I knew that I want to get in here, but how do I get in? So I said, can I volunteer? And as a student, you'll be surprised. There's so many places when, if you want to volunteer as a student, they are quite open to that, to giving you that opportunity. So I get into Record Radio. How I get to XFM is interesting because I knew the PD at XFM, but I always told him, like, if you know how, I don't know why you guys are embarrassed about asking for opportunities. I've learned that you need to be shameless. So I speak to the PD and I tell him, if there's ever any opportunity, you need a radio presenter, Zewendi, I'm available. You call me, even if it's at this time, I'll show up. And an opportunity opened up. Because I'd worked at Record Radio for a couple of months, learning to the point where they'd given me a radio show I could do with one of the presenters there as I got on to continue learning. Now, one of the morning show hosts at XFM at the time, I think, was ill and had been away for some time, so they needed somebody to sit in. You guys, they called me on Monday and they told me you're going to start on Tuesday. I signed a contract on Monday afternoon, and on Tuesday at exactly 5 a.m., I was up, ready.
That's how much you wanted it.
Yes, because I told him, if you ever need, even if a sit-in, Zewendi, call me and I'll show up.
And you showed up.
The moment, so because for me, asking people for opportunities is making sure that you're also top of mind when those opportunities open up. They're like, oh, by the way, I remember Sheila, she had said it, so when that opportunity, I got in there, and well, the rest is history, because here we are.
So for it was not just luck, but you had been there, been present, you had worked hard for it, and you were ready for it.
And it's so funny when people think, I think all of us in each of our individual careers, luck might play, but I think luck is just being ready, meeting opportunities and being ready for them, but also consistently pursuing them. A lot of people especially see that things have just found you, but no, you've consistently worked towards them. If it's food content, I knew that I wanted to work in food content creation, so I consistently started creating content around that area. I knew that at some point I'd want, when somebody opens my social media, they see that I have a niche in these areas, and I worked consistently towards that. And I made sure that I also ask for opportunities. You guys, when I meet younger people today in media who openly ask, how do you do this? Or, by the way, you're working with these people, how can I speak to them? I'm like, yes. Because there's this assumption that because you're Canary, Mugume, you're Sheila, everyone is just going to say, we want that guy. Or you're going to call an eye. Yet there are things where you probably spoke directly to people like, I'd love to work with you guys. If this opportunity opens up, I'd love to work with you guys. Or you even pitched a full idea and said, this is something I want to do with you guys. So a lot of things in life that I've done are carefully saying, I'm going to get this done, and I did it.
There's a sense of entitlement with our current generation now. And speaking to your first radio opportunity, where you said, because now, the generation now, everything is about money.
Yeah.
You know? If they're not looking for an opportunity of, just give me the opportunity. Let me learn, let me grow, and then... So when you went in there, you said, I just want to intern.
Yeah,
I want to intern. And now, when someone approaches you, they're like, how much are you paying me? Right? It's not about, I don't even have the experience. I just, instead of looking at the opportunity and how I can grow that opportunity into what I eventually want, it's always about the money. Just speak to that, at least for this generation.
One, I don't want to take away from why they want to be paid for their work. Some people, it's a skill set that you've also built that you feel like you need to be fairly compensated, and it's not bad. It also speaks to the fact that we are in an economy whereby, honestly speaking, you need to make money to survive. Okay, so sometimes it's an is what it is situation that, yes, I want to get into this space, but I also need to survive. So it's not a bad thing that people want to be paid, but it's just that when you are getting into a space where you haven't been before, or you want to grow into it, something has to give. And sometimes that thing might be getting paid. Okay, and I know that it can sound a lot like exploitation, but sometimes to learn a skill set, you might need to allow that you may not be paid money, or may not even be paid what you want, but you're working towards something. And I think it's just important that you're clear about that goal, that, okay, so I want to get into radio. I asked to volunteer at this space. I know that I will not be paid today, but at least I've set it maybe a timeline of like in 1 year, I need to have gotten to this point. Okay, I want to be on podcasts. So I will speak to Canary and say, can I just be your assistant here at podcast space? So I see what you guys are doing, ask you a couple of questions. I know he may not pay me, but...
Yeah, you're learning.
Yes, so... something has to give, unfortunately, and I think that bit there of something has to give is where the struggle is. Some people, it's easier. Maybe I stay at my parents' house. I don't have to pay any bills, so if I don't get paid, that's okay. Transport here, again, no kumenya. But for some people, it's you're hustling, you have no one to depend on, so it's an unfortunate situation. But a lot of times, something has to give.
Let's speak about your emotional resilience. You cope with stress differently. You've been open about meditation.
Yeah.
You had a terrible breakup that you've been open about. At least, may I read the comments when you're having conversations online?
Okay.
I think this was post-COVID-19.
Yeah.
And, how is singledom doing? Or it's no longer existing?
It's all right. It's not bad.
But what role does or has meditation played in coping with situations or being emotionally resilient, or for people who do not even understand the importance of meditation?
I don't think I actually meditate. Yeah. Maybe the only form of meditation that I've done is to sit with my problems. I just sit with them and I face them and I acknowledge that. I think I acknowledge that I'm struggling. Yeah. That has been, it's something that it's the only way I know how to get past things.
Does that help you process your thoughts?
Yes, it does. And it's so unfortunate. You guys, one of the things that I pray I can overcome, maybe learn how to overcome, is that thing where there are people who are able to shut their thoughts. Not like where someone just says, they shut it out. I have failed to do that. Because the more I refuse to think about something, or the more I refuse to deal with something, the more it just lingers there and it keeps popping in like every moment. So I have learned to just sit with my problems. That this thing happened, I have to sit with it and think about it. When will I stop or overcome it? I don't know. But at this moment in time, I have to sit with it, and it is what it is. I just want to get to a point where now I learn how to like mentally shut things
down.
out. There are people who know how to immediately move on from something. You know, I don't know how they do it. I hope they share some tips. But there are
It's
people.
practice.
Thank you. I don't know. I've tried, but I don't know how to not. My mind has to eat through something. It has to unpack layers of it. It has to peel the whole onion before it gets to a point whereby, okay.
As long as it doesn't take forever.
So for me, it's a thing of time.
Yeah.
Time, I allow time to do its thing, but I also allow myself to meditate and sit with my thoughts.
Faiza Fabz, you've been such a vibe. Thank you so much for making
Before
time.
we let her go, Canary, I want to ask this because my God, Faiza looked for a house. Did you get a house?
Yes, I did, guys.
My goodness.
Yes, I did. It's not perfect, but it is something. And it is one that I'm still waiting to move into. Hopefully, by the time you watch this, I'll have moved into it. But the real estate industry, something in
It's like the entire country was house hunting with her because
I saw the 100 and plus comments below there. People offering, there's a room in Nigeria for 10 days.
Someone offered me their Airbnb and said, if you want, you can start my Airbnb for just 10 days. I said, as long as you don't do parties. I said, so kind of.
As if you were going to move into the Airbnb with your stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Faiza, it's been a pleasure and thank you for making time.
Thank you for having me.
You know, always a pleasure having conversations with you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
you.
Till next time, guys.